Hi there, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I got a little video I want to do today, and what I was thinking here, and this kind of dawned on me, is that I feel like, or I believe that no investigation has been done out of all of the evidence, all of the proof, all the many crimes, reporting the young girl being murdered. Everything found on the previous owner, Mike Lawhon, all the evidence, the triple proof that I wasn't shot with my gun on the premeditated capital murder attempt on my life, and the many people saying tunnels and the underground facilities here, the faked x-rays, the hacking the cameras, just all the crimes here. And, it's almost an endless amount of crimes, and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, I don't think any investigation's been done at all. And I've contacted the police, the Texas Rangers, the FBI, Homeland Security. I talked to the staff of U.S. Congressman Conaway. I contacted the U.S. Inspector General because I was advised by Conaway over 100 times. Contacted Senator Cornyn, Senator Cruz. I wrote President Trump. I wrote President Obama. Before that, I wrote Mueller. I wrote Pelosi. The list goes on and on and on. How many people I've tried to contact and looking for justice and trying to get these crimes solved. But when a citizen, a crime victim, goes to the police and says that, hey, somebody told me that this young girl was murdered, we expect law enforcement to investigate it. And if I give you the name of the witness that was there who told me she was afraid to report this because high-level police were at that same party, then you need to go talk to her. And there better be a report showing where you did talk to her, or that it looks like we got some high-level obstruction of justice and maybe, a little accessory to capital attempted murder or capital murder here. And so anyways, that starts a Facebook post. I'm going to just go over some of the evidence. It says, I reported two various law enforcement agencies that I was told about a young girl that was murdered at a 2010 old show party when she refused to prostitute, which I believe happened in the underground facility said by many people to be near my home. I gave them the name of this witness, along with two other people that I believed were at the same party. Did they ask them? That is kind of a big deal, especially when you add in the evidence of the last homeowner's death and the triple proof on the capital murder attempt on my life, along with multiple people documented as saying that tunnels and/or underground facility is here. The remains of a young girl were found in 2013. And then that's what I linked here right here to the news story, which was from your basin there on Channel 2 News. And so between 14 and 21 years old, young girl was found outside of Midland 2013. I think that's the girl I was told about that was murdered. I want to know, and I gave them the names of the witnesses there and two other people. I want to know, did they go talk to them? Okay, and then I've shown this. I took a print screen of this. Rhonda Denman Rogers. I said a private conversation. I said my home's sitting on top of some underground facility, which is very important, at least near this facility. And she says, yes, it is. I know a half block away. Okay, did anybody go talk to Rhonda Denman Rogers and find out exactly where the underground facility is? That's where I believe the young girl was murdered. Do we have a record saying that? Aaron Packelhofer took a print screen and he asked me, he says, there were 4 people murdered, died in your house. Do you know their names? Well, I didn't know their names. I didn't even know 4 people been murdered, died in my house. But obviously Aaron Packelhofer knows, local Mason. Did law enforcement go talk to him? Did you ask him? Put him in a room and say, I'm a federal officer. You need to answer this question. And then if he lies to you, he goes to prison. Ricky Ronaldo says, I used to live in your house. I said, that's interesting. He says, yeah, when I was a kid, there are tunnels under the house. Me and my brother go into it. Did law enforcement go talk to Ricky Ronaldo? There should be a record to say where there is. If you did, then you know where the tunnels are, and that's probably where the little girl was murdered at. Okay. Okay, and these are the medical records, and this is only one of the triple proof of my x-rays being faked. This one right here shows where the ER doctor orders 3 x-rays, secret lab tech user interface cancels the doctor's orders, reorders 2 x-rays, and the x-rays come in timestamp before they had been ordered or taken. Okay, this was provided to law enforcement. Did they go find out who user interface is so we can stop these medical people who are fake taken x-rays? Did we talk to the doctors? Is there any record that we did anything on the investigation of these horrific crimes? Okay, and I provided this one, my friend. Okay, now some of these I've redacted the names for the public post, but when I send them to law enforcement, they get to see all the full names. Okay, my friend said he talked to his friend, and his friend says, I mentioned basement under Midland Home Depot. She says, how do you know this? Be careful who you're talking to about this. It's dangerous. You need to be careful who you're talking to. Don't talk about the basement under Home Depot. It's dangerous. Did law enforcement go talk to them and find out why it's dangerous? You know, maybe it's the people that are murdering little girls. Okay, I sent on this, Mike Lawhon. Okay, this is the previous homeowner dies a few weeks before I moved in. It was actually the week before the 2008 oil show started. The Odessa American posted the first death notice, said he died in Fort Worth, and that was posted on October 14, 2008. 4 days later, they changed it on October 18th and changed the location of death to say he died at his residence. Okay, well, the neighbor told me twice that Mike Lawhon died at this house here in Midland. I believe he was murdered here and taken to Fort Worth, which is his mom's house. This was provided to law enforcement. Somebody called the Odessa American and told them to change this. It didn't happen automatically. Did law enforcement have a record of finding out who did that and finding out why? Because it might just lead to finding out who murdered Mike Lawhon. Okay. Did the Midland Police Department find out did they find out why the Midland Police Department hid the police report for the night of the murder attempt for 6 years when it was subpoenaed, right? And how come the names don't match what the private investigator said? Okay, here's the names found on the newly obtained police report from 1/28/12, the night that I'm shot. Okay, and you see them: April Chandler, Rosa Rodriguez, Tony Dickey, Greg Chandler, Marty Barrett, Dylan Hale, Joe Ramirez, Kenny Angle, and Matt Davis. That's who, and remember, even though this was subpoenaed in 2013, it was withheld. And we know it's falsified. I've shown that before. Okay, I offered $2,000 reward to anybody that could identify them secret police. Never happened before in the history of America. Empire Private Investigations collected the money. So I paid $2,000 disability money, and here's who he says, or this company says, was here. Okay, notice that the names are not the same. Okay, John Woodward, that was a sheriff at the time, Martin County. Okay, that's a big deal. Mike Naylor, he's a sheriff deputy from Midland, no longer alive. That's a big deal. He's not up there on the Midland Police Report. Did we do an investigation and find out why the Midland Police Department hid that police record while they're falsifying records, and who was actually here and who wasn't? Okay, I went to the police report that's newly obtained, and I see where at 11:05 on the night that I'm ambushed and shot in my home, Lieutenant Dickey says he's inside my house, but my cameras show that they wasn't disabled till 11:22. They were disabled by Naylor and Woodward, and so the question is, how did Dickey get inside my home if he didn't come in the door? Maybe he come from the underground entrance. Okay, has that been investigated by law enforcement? Okay, and okay. Did they ask the ex-wife about admitting to trying to extort $1,800 a month from me, or with the threat of calling me crazy if I didn't pay? And I sent this record to them. This is a transcript of a recorded conversation. They got the recorded conversation. I'm telling her in a conversation where I'm reminding her, you're going to pay me $1,800 or $1,200 a month. I'm going to lie about everything until I'm crazy. And she said, I made a mistake. And then she goes and blames Greg. She admitted to felony extortion on a tape. And the police have that. Did they question her about that? And the threat was, she's going to call me crazy. Okay, well, come December 18th, 2 years after I survived a murder attempt, she goes into court and calls me delusional. She called me crazy. I didn't pay the money, and she carried out the extortion threat. And she did it along with her childhood lifelong friend, Midland detective Rosa Rodriguez. Did the Midland police investigate her for extortion? Or her friend, Rosa Rodriguez? Okay. Did we ask the neighbor about the suspected tunnel entrance in the backyard? These are Google Earth pictures. Look at the date. Okay, this is before I moved in. March 31st, 2008. Nothing's in that backyard. Okay, you see where the arrow's pointing. And by December 5th, 2009, Mike Lawhon's dead. I had just moved in. there's a suspected tunnel entrance in the backyard. You see it there? Okay, and the crimes are happening. I'm calling the police, the Texas Ranger, etc. Get shot, all that. Okay, then it's taken out. So here it is, October 2nd, 2014. We know it's still there on this date, but bing, all of a sudden, by April 28, 2016, it's taken out. You see, it's gone. At the same time, the missing tree is gone. That's where another suspected tunnel entrance. Did anybody ask this neighbor about that suspected tunnel entrance in the backyard? If a federal officer asks him what it was and he lies, he goes to prison. Somebody needs to ask him, was that a tunnel entrance or was it not? And do you know anything about the crimes to your neighbor's house? Okay, did they talk to the many other homeowners in the area that reported somebody in the attic? Most of these I have recorded directly from my police scanner, and it's the dispatcher dispatching police to a home because they are reporting somebody in the attic. I first reported somebody in my attic January 2011. A year later, January 2012, I'm ambushed and shot with burglar alarms going off in my attic. It's a big deal. You can pull the police reports, you can find out who reported it, you can investigate the houses. Is there any investigation been done at all? Obviously, it's connected to all these other crimes. It's widespread racketeering. It's also going on across the state and many other states. Okay, and more. Did they investigate the sworn testimony of the ex-wife not matching her lifelong friend? This is perjury that was found in the protective order hearing, and it was about who called who. But basically, the Detective Rosa Rodriguez and her lifelong friend, the ex-wife, were had two different stories about who called who on the night that I was shot, and they had also, my daughter was involved in that conversation. So one of them lied. So we've got perjury in that case. Okay, did they ask Suddenlink, okay, about the buried coax cable behind my house? Okay, and that goes down that telephone pole where that tree has now been taken out. Okay, goes underground. We know it doesn't go to homes. It don't go to Home Depot. It's suspected to go into the underground facility. Did the investigators? It was taken out in 9/22/14. Somebody's paying for it. Did the investigators find out where it was going? Who was paying for it? Who had it disconnected? Is it connected to the murder of that little girl in the underground facility? Okay. Did they ask Midland Detective Rosa Rodriguez why she personally tried to have me committed, or MPD April Chandler when she diagnosed me as a paranoid schizophrenic when I was cleared by mental health at the hospital? Here's from because due to the lies to cover up this premeditated capital attempted murder, mental health comes in, right? And so then they do their little examination and talk to me, whatever. Yeah, there's no problem here. Of course not. I'm a crime victim. I was shot inside my home after reporting repeated felonies at my home. I was a 28-year company man. But here's April Chandler, less than a day and a half after being in my house after I survived a murder attempt, calling me a paranoid schizophrenic. That life-destroying lie was to cover up a premeditated capital attempted murder. Okay, and then you will see where Rosa Rodriguez personally called the hospital and tried to have me committed as if she was some kind of doctor. Did they ask Lisa Rogers, okay, why she told me I was shot with a .45? Remember, the lie was that I was shot with my shotgun. Well, the evidence is triple proof I wasn't shot with my shotgun. But Lisa knows what I shot with. I suspected that maybe her or her son, I think his name Ryan Cobbs, was here when I shot. Maybe that's how they know. Did law enforcement ask? I provided them this evidence, okay? Here is a picture from the security camera picture. Now keep in mind, the secret police tried to disable this camera. Okay, I'm in hospital. I'm in surgery at the time and my cell phone is stolen and my home phone is cut. And right before I'm shot, okay, they plan on me dying. When I get back home, my home phone's working and my cell phone is found planted behind that nightstand that Rosa Rodriguez is seen leaned over. I believe she is planting my cell phone, and this picture shows it, and she's standing there with April Chandler. When we look at the time stamp of the picture, and then we can tell that they waited till all the other police had left my room, okay, and then they went over and planted my stolen cell phone behind my nightstand. Now keep in mind, it was stolen before I was shot by surprise. I was supposed to die. Has anybody talked to Rodriguez or Chandler and asked them why they planted that cell phone? Jana Morrison, owner of Kingsway Antiques, told me she used to have a student that lived in the tunnels at my house. She's a witness. She did this in front of 2 other people, Ann Sams and her son, and told me 2 different times. So Jana Morrison is a witness that there are tunnels there. Did anybody in law enforcement talk to Jana Morrison, find out where these tunnels are, find out if she knows about the underground facility, find out if she knows about that little girl that was murdered or the other murders or suspected murders at this home? Lance Eggleston, another print screen. He writes me, he says, we know who you are. We know where you sleep. We have access to your residence all the time. No one will ever believe your story. We will come again. And I said, I don't know if he's a good guy or bad guy or whatever. And then he tells me, you will be silenced, not if, but when. And I said, when are you going to murder me, Lance? And I print screen this and sent that to then Police Chief Robinson, and I provided that to law enforcement. Has anybody in law enforcement asked this man right here why he threatened my life and what he knows about the hidden access to this home and where he was at on the night of the premeditated capital murder of my life? Okay. This woman on the phone told me there was 4 3-bedroom underground homes costing over $1 million each, and they were having pedophile parties there. This is a video, and
it was not $1 million. It was actually 4, and they're actually homes
that are underground.
3-bedroom. Yes, they're 3-bedroom.
Well, I'm sitting right on top of it too. That's the other side of it. I'm trying to think when you talk about.
Yes.
You're
with me on a draw, right?
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, it is pretty close to a draw.
He even knew things like this. I'm like, that's too crazy. This is too much.
I did a Facebook post recently called Bunkers. And it was something that I noticed that was brought up in court by the district attorney and even my attorney. They used that term bunkers, and they used it like 4 different times. Well, I had never even thought of bunkers, and I had never used the word bunker or even said bunkers.
Yeah.
But they're sitting there calling it bunkers, and which I'm thinking they already knew what it was. You know what I mean? That these are bunkers, and that's why they 3 underground.
4.
Oh, 4 underground
4
houses or whatever. And
yes, where's each of? They're all in total $4 million.
For me, and see, that's what the first.
I asked them about the pizza parties. They said they're not called pizza parties, but I know what you're talking about.
Right, the pedophile parties.
Yes.
And then and see, a couple of weeks, you probably read all this before, but a couple of weeks after I got out of the hospital, that ex-wife comes by my home, and she says, you don't know how many lives you ruined with your idiocy. And of course, my idiocy was staying home and minding my own business. I was shot inside my home. And but what she was saying was a lot of people were here, and they're going to have their lives ruined. And
do you know about how many feet that gun pushed through?
That
ground it was, because he said that these houses are 25 feet under.
I provided the name of the person on that phone to law enforcement. Is there a record where they went and talked to that person and found out how they knew this information? Okay, and 4 $3 million homes. Let's say that right. Okay. 4 3-bedroom $1 million underground homes, 25 foot deep, having pedophile parties. And I believe this is where they're having the infamous oil show prostitution parties and where the young girl was murdered at. And so I have a feeling there are some corrupt police that know about that. The ones my friend was at that party and she was afraid to report that murder. Okay, another question. Did they find out if Chad Simpson, who threatened me in 2010, was the guy that threatened me in 2010 from talking to the witness of the girl that was murdered? Okay, now keep this in mind. Okay, December 13th, 2014, I wrote a story called Rape and Murder. It's about the young girl being murdered at the oil show party. And I included this picture of the secret police wearing a Midland K-9 police jacket. Okay, he was identified later in May of 2018 by Empire Private Investigations as Midland K-9 police officer Chad Simpson. 2 days after I posted that, this woman was murdered by this guy. Well, I don't know if it's this guy, but it was by Chad Simpson, a Midland K-9 police officer. So it's believed that Chad, that was in my house, it is the same guy that murdered Sandra Simpson, his wife, and killed himself. And so, has there been any investigation done on this and the connection that was it Chad Simpson that called and threatened me from talking to the witness to that murder back in 2010? And is that why he murdered Sandra? We got some questions to answer. Okay, here. July 10th, 2018, I sent an email, called burglary, habitation, and theft of services. They're both felonies at 3802 Fair Circle. And I sent this to these people. That's the entire city council, the mayor, and the sheriff, And was the sheriff there? No, the chief of police. The chief of police, the mayor, and the city council, and I give them the history of how I reported my first burglary, and then I'm shot with burglar alarms going off, and I included at the bottom, and it's cut off 50 links to 50 videos. They're all time-stamped, dated. These were burglar alarms going off of my house, and that was only partial list. Was any investigation done after I provided this huge amount of proof of these felonies being committed against me here in Midland, Texas by the Midland Police Department? Okay. Empire Private Investigations identified John Woodward, former Martin County Sheriff, as being the very first police officer at my home. Has anybody talked to John Woodward and asked him how he knew I had been ambushed and shot in my home, and how he got from Martin County to my home in Midland, Texas, and he was here before anybody else? Somebody needs to talk. Is there a record of where this investigation is gone? Okay. This is just a partial list of people that have asked, suggested, or ordered me to move from my home while I live under the threat of death. And I compiled this up. You're going to see it. Move, 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 move. These are different people. Move, move. Some of them are nice. Some of them are rude. Some of them tell me, he says, I see two choices for you. Move or meet God early. Another one said, and it's not on here. It says the cops can kill you at any time. You need to quit publicizing their business and go buy you another home. Why don't you move? And here is a link to the Hobbs Act. It says you cannot conspire with other people to terrorize a home or a property owner into selling their property while you live under the threat of death or violence. And here's a list of them, just some of the death threats that I've gotten. And I showed you a death threat earlier, And so obviously some of these people, now not all of them are asking me to move for nefarious reasons, but some of them, they want me out of this house because it's connected to all the crimes, right? And so did law enforcement do any investigation on the many people that are urging me or asking me to move from my house when they're not asking? Why isn't law enforcement arresting the criminals? Can anybody live free in their house, safe in our house? A woman contacted me and says, you need to go to maps.google.com, put in your address. And I did, and this is a print screen. In my backyard, there's a large facility right here. Now, I'm shot on this side of my home. Here's the Home Depot, and there's this large facility. That's in my backyard. It's not there. That's been wondered if that was the underground facility that the woman on the phone told me about. Rhonda Denman Rogers said was here, where the little girl was murdered, etc. Did anybody in law enforcement talk to Google and find out why there's a large facility in my backyard? This talks about the break-in of the neighbor's house at 3804, and she told me it was a man from the Martin house at 3811 that the police identified as breaking into her home. Did any law enforcement ever go talk to them people and suspect maybe they had been breaking into my home? I've reported multiple break-ins to my home. And here is the deed history for the 9 homes in my cul-de-sac, And you can see here the deed history for my house, where I bought it from Mike Lawhon. He bought it from Brandy Merrill. Brandy Merrill bought it from Morse Kurt, and Morse Kurt bought it from Randy Offenberger. Did law enforcement talk to any of these people and find out what they know about rigging this home with hidden access so it can be used for racketeering, for murder, for theft, and for burglary? Did they talk to any of these other homeowners and find out what they know. Okay, and some of the interesting things, Brandy Merrill used to own my home, lived across the street in this home. I married Daniel Price here, and that's the home that was owned by the brother-in-law of U.S. Congressman Mike Conaway, the late John Legendre, or Lejeune, who is Suzanne's brother. Okay, and they had another sibling named Wilson, so maybe that home is still in the family. This right here home is the one, is the former Martin home. This is the one I was talking about a minute ago. There was a documented burglary at that home. This home right here is the one that had the suspected tunnel entrance in the backyard. This home right here, this is owned by a locksmith. His daughter was murdered a couple years ago here in Midland. Marilyn DeLuce, she no longer lives there. She's the person that told me that Michael Hahn died in my house. She said that somebody else died there before him, and before that, a man named Ken Slager lived there. He worked for my company. He was a commercial director, and his group took care of the oil shows, the booth at the oil shows. Okay. And then Nick Todoro is a local attorney. He's a long time, and I believe a John Gray, which is also the name of a very wealthy oil man, might have owned that same property. I want to know if law enforcement did any investigation. Okay. This was interesting. Recent post here, posted on my Facebook board. It was a letter from Cynthia Clack. She's a well-known attorney in town, comes from a family of judges and lawyers, and she is writing the Midland Police Department, and she's saying she has evidence for a major internet prostitution ring that was returned to her unopened, and they didn't even investigate. This would happen in the same year that I was ambushed and shot. Did law enforcement investigate this evidence and possibly this major internet prostitution ring is the same one that murdered that little girl and murdered Mike and tried to kill me? Okay, at my company, okay, I reported 5 co-workers before I was ambushed and shot because I believe they knew who was breaking into my home. I reported them to my supervisor, Dane Wiggins. So after I'm ambushed and shot, I contacted Dane. I said, do you have the documentation of me reporting the 5 co-workers to you? And he blocked me, and I've never talked to him again. My company then comes in and lays him off, lays them other people off, and they put me on long-term disability. Question's been asked if they had anybody at the oil shows where that little girl was murdered. Okay. Triple proof my x-rays have been faked. These are the people that were in the first surgery where they cut my heel bone out after they faked my x-rays. Possibly somebody on this list knows something about intentional maiming and mutilation, dismemberment of a crime victim to cover up a premeditated capital attempted murder. Did law enforcement talk to any of these people to find out what they know and stop these horrific, heinous crimes? Them crimes have been compared to Dr. Mengele of Nazi Germany. It's so sick. Okay, multiple amputation attempts after faking my x-rays. And the top one comes from Midland Detective Rosa Rodriguez. Day after day after day after day, they wanted to cut my leg off desperately. They wanted to dismember a crime victim to cover up a premeditated capital attempted murder. Remember, I'm a home man of my own business. They come to my home and shot me by surprise, cut my phone lines. Okay, part of the transcript right here, and you see the date here. This is the protection order hearing, and I testified. I said, she said, the secret is that a group of doctors are killing people for profit. Well, what it never told me the entire time that we married was her brother-in-law was a doctor. Well, come to find out, her brother-in-law was my doctor at the hospital the night the x-rays got faked. Did law enforcement ever talk to her, to him, or anybody about that? Okay, Dr. Hinton states that he looked at my x-rays from 1/17/12, the injury date, and he compared them to other ones I had taken on 1/19/12, but I was shot 11 days later on 1/28/12. This told me he wasn't looking at my x-rays, and I believe that was the foot in the faked x-rays, was this guy that somebody was shot with a shotgun on 1/17/12. They took his foot, put my name on them, and that's when they faked the x-rays. Okay, so when did law enforcement find out who was shot on January 17th, and what does Dr. Hinton know about it? Okay, and then I found where from EOB, from my insurance company, company that Dr. Hinton charged my insurance company for x-rays on the night that I was shot, January 28, 2012. His name is not on the medical records, but he was charging my insurance company for x-rays, and them on the x-rays that we know have been fake. Did law enforcement investigate that? ER doctor, this is my brother-in-law I didn't know about, right? And he says, here we go, right ankle exhibits a third degree gunshot wound, which appears to have been sustained by shotgun blast. That was interesting wording, because it looks like I was shot with a special bullet to make it appear that I was shot with a shotgun, when that didn't happen. But the big thing is here, he supposedly removed the plastic wadding, okay? Well, from the shotgun shell before surgery. Okay, well, the big deal is here, the surgeon says he removed a large amount of plastic from the wound, okay? And it's believed that come from a Glazer safety slug, a plastic tip pellet filled bullet, okay? But some of the people trying to cover up this premeditated capital attempted murder have gone, oh, the wadding is plastic. But remember, the ER doctor said he removed it. Remember, this is the brother-in-law. Now, if I'm shot with a Glazer safety slug, there isn't a wadding, so somebody needs to ask the doctor what he removed, and let's get this figured out. Keep in mind that the size of pellets fit the Glazer safety slug, and they don't fit my gun. And also, Lisa Rogers said I was shot with a 45. Glazer safety slugs can be made with a 40, or can be bought for a 45 handgun. Okay. There's a large amount of plastic lead pelletry in my foot. A Glazer safety slug is a plastic tip pellet filled bullet. Okay. The size of pellets meet what the lab said was removed from my foot. It has a plastic tip. It fits all the evidence. Okay, it can be fired from a 45. There were space limitations in that small room under that cabinet. Okay, and so then we know it didn't come from the wadding. Okay, and so obviously I was shot with a special bullet to make my murder look like an accident, and that would add $500,000 to the benefit. Okay. Okay, I've already done that one, it looks like. Maybe I have that one down. Okay. Arthur Welch contacts me, the former boyfriend of the ex-wife. Do you think she had anything to do with the shooting? Okay, he dated her for a while. And then he tells me, well, I think she had a lot to do with it from the things she said, and she threatened to have me killed too, right there. She threatened to have me killed too. This document, this print screen, was submitted in court as evidence, and she confirmed that he was the boyfriend, okay? And so, did anybody in law enforcement talk to Arthur Welch? Okay. Less than a month before I'm shot, I separated from a 3-month marriage with an ex-wife. She takes my life insurance books without my knowledge. They showed her I had a basic accidental death and dismemberment policy plus supplemental accidental death that increased the payout 2 times annual base pay plus $250,000. Basically, let's put this in a nutshell. If her childhood lifelong friend, Rosa Rodriguez, rules my murder an accident, then it adds about $500,000 to the estimated $1 million already. The big prize is this special home that's rigged with hidden access. Okay, she brought these books back to me just about a week before I'm ambushed and shot with papers for me to file divorce for. I filed divorce 5 days before I shot. Of course, it wouldn't have changed. It wasn't official, so it didn't change the beneficiary. And if I died, she was going to get extra $500,000 if her friend ruled my murder an accident. Cha-ching. Okay. I was researching the builders of my home. Tabor Construction, okay, is no longer in business.